My name is Tanya Ragan. I am president of Wildcat Management. I live in downtown Dallas. I've lived here for 10 years, actually 10 years next month. I'm originally from Rochester, Minnesota, which is a small town in southeastern Minnesota. I spent several years in New York City, before moving to Dallas. In New York, I worked for a turnaround company, a consulting company. Essentially, Fortune 500 clients or companies would hire us to come in and reorganize. It could be management, it could be product, it could be geographic, but we would come in and strategize, put together a plan, and help execute some avenue of their business that they were wanting to improve. I had been in corporate America for a little over 10 years, and graduating from college, I was extremely ambitious. I wanted to live in the big city. I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, and that's ultimately what took me to New York. After living in New York and working for some great companies and having some wonderful clients, I had reached the point where I recognized that I was ready to go out on my own. So I was living in New York at the time and in the process of transitioning out on my own, and an opportunity came up in Dallas with an associate that I had worked with in the past. And I ended up flying to Dallas. I spent about 2 weeks here and determined that I thought this was the place that I needed to be. And about a month later, this was my new home. Wildcat Management has a real estate division, a venture capital division, and a oil and gas division. We are predominantly right now doing commercial development, real estate, and focusing on venture capital opportunities. We look at both health and technology. It can be anything from angel investing up to more the mezzanine level. Right now, our focus is on product that is either in the market or ready to go to market. Well, I'm passionate about a lot of things. One thing in particular that I'm passionate about is community. One aspect of our both real estate and our venture capital and investing is the investment in people. And I am fortunate that I have had the unique opportunity to be involved in downtown Dallas and in the revitalization efforts that are taking place downtown. It's really interesting to me. One area that I personally have spent a lot of time in and that we have personally invested in is the farmers market. The farmers market is a district in downtown. It's on the southeastern side of downtown within the central business district. And initially, when we invested in that area and we acquired property, the area was very depressed and very distressed. Through community revitalization and organizing the community, we've been able to put together a group of property owners, business owners, and residents that have organized to basically revitalize that neighborhood. And in the short time of around 6 to 7 years, we've been able to take that neighborhood and bring back economic development, take buildings that were previously vacant or empty or distressed and fill those buildings. We've been able to take empty lots that were vacant and that were depressed and build new facilities on those. We also have been able to convince the city to privatize the market, at which a private group through a public-private partnership in partnership with the City of Dallas have come in and are in the process of redeveloping the formerly city-owned farmers market So for myself, being a community person, it's been a really exciting and unique opportunity to be involved in something like that from the start through the execution, and now seeing the rewards with people moving back to that area of town and businesses relocating to that area of town. Revitalization is a area of town, like for example the farmers market, that at one time was very active. It's an area of town that brings a tremendous amount of history, and that area of town at one time had businesses and people living there, and was an active, thriving community. Over time, for various reasons, the area became depressed. People moved out, buildings got boarded up, and it sort of became a depressed and lost area of town. Revitalization took place when community took ownership. I think it's really interesting how you have property owners that can be second or third generation property owners or business owners. You have new property owners, you have new businesses, but what's really interesting is when people can come together and share the same common goal, even though these people may have different backgrounds, different economic levels, different education levels. But one thing that the people all share is their common goal of community and improving the neighborhood that they live in. That can include everything from public safety to quality of life to sharing relationships and sharing day-to-day communication and crossing paths. And I will say, that's something that's really interesting that I feel really fortunate about. The company that I work for and that I'm president of, we have been able to participate in revitalization and community efforts in a lot of different avenues, through the farmers market, through other cities that we have investments in Texas, in Minnesota, and essentially even with the startups and the entrepreneurs that we invest in, they form their own sense of community. So I think it's really, really interesting how when people come together and share ideas and share their passion, it's pretty incredible what you can accomplish. Being a female and working with a lot of men, I have always been very independent. I went to a small school. I was one of 6 people in my graduating class. I actually graduated with all girls. And I went to the same school, kindergarten through 12th grade. So when I went off to college, I went to a university where there was 15,000 students, coming from a graduating class of 6. I will say that, I was always very ambitious, and, graduating with all women seemed very normal to me. When I went to college and had this aspiration and this dream to climb the corporate ladder and to move to the city, I didn't really know what the limitations were because I was very naive, I guess. But also with that, brought a mindset that I wanted to see the world and that anything was possible. Growing up, I was extremely active in 4-H. I participated in a lot of sports, and that sense of teamwork and competition, was something that I think really groomed me for for my career and for later on. Going to school, graduating, moving to New York City, I was fortunate that I had some really great mentors that were women early on. I went to work for a consulting company that was sort of on the ground floor. They were bringing in a new division, and I sort of fell into that. And as the company grew, I had the opportunity to grow with it. Certainly having those female mentors early on was extremely helpful, but I also had some really great male mentors. And it's interesting, going to work in the corporate world, and as I got further along in my career, there just were less and less women. And at some point I looked around and most of the women were gone, and I was surrounded by men. I would say that my male mentors were extremely encouraging. They certainly taught me how to be aggressive and be assertive, which can be difficult for women. We tend to be a little bit more reserved. We tend to not always be very specific and ask directly for what we want. Being around strong men, especially professionally, certainly helped train me to be more aggressive. It's just at a certain point, I looked around and most of the women were gone. Today, right now, my partners and the other people I work with are, they're all men. And even, I had a very close relationship with both my father and my grandfather, who were both business owners and very strong. And, at a very young age, I would go to meetings or, participate with different things that were going on in their business, even if it was just sitting in the same room and observing. So, I think that definitely had an impression on me with, how I communicate with people in business. I'm inspired every day. I mean, really, I'm inspired daily, weekly, monthly. I think I'm a creative person, and I think it's so important to be around other people that inspire you. I read a really great quote that you never want to be the smartest person in the room, and I so believe in that. You want to surround yourself with people that are smarter than you, stronger than you, maybe better at your job than you. I feel very fortunate to be in Dallas and to be downtown. I think there is so many great things happening in this town. We have a very strong economy. We have a low cost of living. We have companies and entrepreneurs from all over the country that want to be here and are relocating here. So I think it is really an exciting time to be in Dallas and to be downtown. It's an exciting time for me personally with my profession in real estate, in development, in attracting new businesses, in venture capital. Certainly there is a innovation and accelerator wave going on right now downtown that's attracting a lot of young people and millennials from big cities all over the country that maybe 5 years ago would not have considered Dallas as a place they wanted to be. Now those people are moving to Dallas and coming to Dallas because they see opportunity and see that there is there's great things happening here. The reason I believe so strongly in revitalization and preservation is, well, it's a combination of things. One, I really like to fix things. I certainly like a challenge. Growing up in a small town and with a strong sense of community, I like to feel a common interest and common goal with people. I believe in history. I like history. I believe in preservation. I like preservation. I think that it's really important to maintain our history and preserve our history when we can. Sometimes that's just not possible for a variety of reasons, but I certainly believe that whenever possible, we should try to preserve our buildings, our architecture, our history. Well, I think for women, especially when you work in a man's field, it can be very lonely. And at times, you might feel like you are isolated. And it's important to reach out and to find other women as mentors. I'm an extremely optimistic person. And I think it's really important not to look back. And it's important not to become fearful. And the challenge is that whether you're in corporate America, whether you work for a small business, whether you own your own company, you are going to face obstacles, and you are going to come upon things that are challenging, and people that are challenging, and people who don't necessarily have the same ideas and vision that you have. And if anything, what I've learned through working in a turnaround type environment or working in a revitalization type role, that you tend to at times come into conflict and not share the same vision. And that's okay. But don't let other people influence you or hold you back. And how important it is that you continue to move forward and don't let fear hold you back or define you. I tend to be the type of person that I'm all in or I'm not. And moving to New York, moving to Dallas, going out and starting my own business, getting involved in areas of Dallas or other areas in Texas that maybe were not necessarily popular or in a state of transition, certainly took risk. But being able to, I guess, move forward and not let other people influence you or let people who have a negative opinion or maybe don't share your same vision, to stay true to your beliefs, stay true to yourself, and stay true to the team, and press forward. I think a lot of women, they don't recognize their talents. And I think, women are excellent communicators. We're extremely intuitive. We tend to have a lot less ego. We tend to play well and work well with others. And I think all of those things are very powerful characteristics and attributes that women need to use more to their advantage, especially women who work with a lot of men. Men tend to have a different approach. Women tend to be a lot more patient, especially in the art of the deal. If you're working through a deal, I notice I tend to be extremely patient and work through any challenges or hurdles that may come up. I can kind of troubleshoot and work through. I think that is a characteristic that a lot of women have, that they're good problem solvers. Something else that I think is really important for women is I'm a capitalist. I think it's so fortunate that we can live in a country like the United States, that we can be in a city like Dallas, where there is such a strong economy. I look at my father. My father grew up in rural Minnesota. He was a farmer. He grew up poor in a big family, and he was extremely ambitious. And he put himself through school, and through his own motivation, through his ambition, became a successful business owner. And I think, we are so fortunate here in the United States that women can own their own business. They can run their own company. They can have the respect to work in a man's field. And I really, would push for my younger self. If I was to tell my younger self anything, it would be to not let other people define me, and to not get intimidated. And I know that's easier to say than to execute, but I would push for other women to go out on their own, to ask for support, ask for resources. If you have a male mentor or a female mentor and you need something from them, ask for it. Go to a bank, get an SBA loan. If you can't do that, find someone who will invest their time in you to ask questions. One thing that I notice even with myself, when I've had interns in my office, I've had young people that are college students that have reached out to me, and in general, people want to help other people, especially young people. So, if you are a young person and you're a woman, don't be shy. Reach out to people that you admire. Now with social media, we have Twitter, we have Facebook, of course, email. Reach out, call, and ask. You have nothing to lose by asking for somebody's input or their feedback. And in my experience, most times people want to help you, and for women, even more so. I mean, put yourself out there and take risk.